All right, wrestling fans, we are back with episode 3 of the Out of the Ring Network podcast. As always, I am your host, the best in the world, Chris, and always joining me is the phenomenal one, Mr. AJ.
What's up? What's up, everybody? Don't come for the fact that Chris is wearing a woman's shirt. That's why he says he's the best.
Look, man, I like Oscar, I like the shirt, so screw you, okay?
All right.
All right, so we're gonna get into it. First, I did want to apologize for not airing on our usual time with date of Thursday day, but I've been sick. I actually still sick, but I didn't want to miss a week, so we just had to move it back a little bit. But we'll get on with the show, starting as always with our Raw rundown. First up was on Raw was the opening promo between Brock, Dean Ambrose, and Paul Heyman. Not too much of a fan, I guess, of it. What did you think of it?
I think Paul Heyman is the best that they have that's on the mic. And with Ambrose, who's getting better and better at the mic each time that you speak to him, I think those two have the ability, if they can go a lot longer and they can just set up a match between those two, those mics segments would be amazing. But yeah, you're right. It wasn't anything phenomenal. Brock Lesnar, he was good to have in the beginning of Raw. I mean, hey, that's the best part of Raw. But as for the promo stuff, not so much.
You know, I actually I didn't think it was great, but at the very least, it was different because everyone already knows my opinion of the authority and that I'm tired of it and I wish it to go away. And the fact that the authority, generally speaking, always opens Monday Night Raw. I'm so sick of that. Like I really just need them to just calm down on a whole authority thing. So it was a breath of fresh air on the one hand with Brock and Paul Heyman starting it off, and then Dean Ambrose coming out. But at the same time, the whole thing with Dean Ambrose saying that he wants to go, he wants Brock to take him to Suplex City and I'm a fighter and all that stuff. You know, yeah, that's cool, but it's not really interesting to me. So I thought it would have been even better considering you had Paul Heyman and you had Dean Ambrose. Now, you know Brock isn't going to say anything other than like little stuff, but usually Brock doesn't need to say anything anyway. So, you know, that was my whole thing on the opening.
Brock doesn't talk. He just takes you to Suplex City.
Yeah, pretty much. First match of the night was Kalisto versus Rusev. Kalisto won via countout. And this is the thing that I think is going to end up happening. They always do this with the small wrestlers where they win in all these weird little ways. Like Kalisto wins on a countout because Rusev gets thrown into the barricade and he can't beat the count. There's always going to be these little eke out wins for every match that he has, which I don't really like because it's like you don't always have to have the small wrestler. I'm not saying that he has to squash Rusev, but at the same time, I feel like he's going to always be like in a situation where he's getting the hell beat out of him, and he just so happens to eke his way out of. You know, the small person can actually beat the big person legit. You know.
Oh, come on. That is not true. I say, like, for example, when Rey Mysterio, when he was world champion, they continue to push for him every single time against, like, all the big people. Brock Lesnar, you had Big Show, you had Mark Henry, you had all those small people. And then if you remember a few years ago, Evan Bourne, the exact same thing with Mark Henry. So I think they're just playing out the small people out so much. I think they just got to let them look for different ways to win, and then maybe when Kalisto and Sin Cara comes back, maybe they can set up a phenomenal match between them. Or this could just set up, and hopefully they'll bring back the Cruiserweight title that they used to have. I mean, come on, all these small people that they're now bringing in from NXT, they can give those guys titles, a.k.a. Tyler Breeze. I think he would be more of a Cruiserweight person, maybe U.S. title, but nothing else. So I think this is kind of a segment to kind of like maybe see what happens, how popular the smaller guys get.
Well, you do bring up a good point. I do think that they should bring back the cruiserweight belt because it would give some of these other wrestlers another belt that you don't necessarily have to be the Intercontinental or the U.S. champ because you're still going to have the bigger wrestlers going for that, and you'll have the ability to have these smaller wrestlers that are able to put on great shows and great matches with other smaller wrestlers. It's something different as opposed to a small guy always fighting a big guy and the match happened to come like the speed of the match going just grinding to a halt because that's what the big guy's supposed to do. So that was my whole thing on that. After that was the backstage segment between Stephanie McMahon, Roman Reigns, and Dean Ambrose. It's obviously everybody knows that they're kind of hinting at a heel turn for. Let's be honest, it's not going to be Roman Reigns because Roman Reigns, they want him to be the face of the company and the baby face that takes over for John Cena. So obviously it's Dean Ambrose that they're kind of hinting at this heel turn, which I don't have a problem with on the one hand because I think Dean Ambrose can do really good work as a heel. But at the same time, like everybody else, I kind of wish they would make Roman Reigns a heel too, just because I'm tired of him with standing there with a smile on his face and, trying to be all nice and cool for the crowd, and the whole crowd hates his guts.
Crowd does hate his guts, besides the little kids. Dean Ambrose going heel, I don't think so. I think it's just a way to throw people off because they're trying to get so much positivity going into Roman Reigns. And to me, he's not great. Like, I know my girlfriend, she likes Roman Reigns, and I don't know why. But I guess I see the superstar appealing to him. Dean Ambrose, they're trying to get him to have his starlight for that triple threat match at Fastlane go towards Reigns to set up a big WrestleMania match, but it's not going to happen. So they're going to tease a heel turn just for that fact to get all the fans on one side.
Yeah, well, I told you I'm not that excited into it just because into the triple threat match because of the fact that everybody knows that the Roman Reigns is going to win it. I mean, they could swerve everybody. I doubt it, but that just comes to the point that they can try all this different stuff, but if everybody knows the outcome and don't like the outcome, you're really not going to get people to change off of it. But next match on the on Raw was the Usos against the Social Outcasts. I don't remember which of the Social Outcasts they fought. I really don't care. The Usos won. Yay. That was pretty much it.
Usos need a heel turn. They're boring now. They're not exciting. I feel like they're doing the exact same gimmick for years now. It's time to change them up to get them like heat because I'm sure they can get tons of heat. The tag division's not going to last with just the way that it is. They need to kind of bring some different heat, different perspectives in, not just everyone be a babyface.
Yeah, and the team that's supposed to be the heels are cheered more than pretty much anybody else on the damn roster. That's the crazy thing. Like New Day is supposed to be the heel tag team, and they do all this heel stuff, and it doesn't matter because people still love them so much. They're just like it's irrelevant. So they definitely need to do something with the tag team division. Whatever happened to Los Matadores? Los Matadors, like they just kind of disappeared.
Los Matadors, aren't they on NXT?
No,
I'm thinking of a different team. Los Matadors, they're gone.
Yeah, with the El Torito and
yeah, those guys are dead. I think if anything, they'll move them back to NXT, or nothing. Just move on.
Okay, well, whatever. We'll move on from there because no point in wasting time on the tag team division. Next up was Miz TV with his guest AJ Styles. Now, the whole point of Miz TV, I think, was just to build for the match that they had on SmackDown because Miz just basically talked and talked and talked and talked. Didn't really let AJ Styles say anything. And then he started talking smack in the end, and AJ Styles got pissed and started beating the hell out of him. So that's what, like I said, I just think that was setting up for AJ Styles and Miz on SmackDown. But I'm still interested in seeing if they are going to go through with having Chris Jericho turn heel and have him face AJ Styles at like WrestleMania, even though they've already wrestled once.
Nope. They're wrestling again on next Friday of SmackDown. That'll be round 2. Chris Jericho at that time will screw AJ Styles, and then from there it'll be Chris Jericho versus AJ Styles final round at Fastlane, because they need to get a lot of people into Fastlane, and right now there's no major events going on besides the triple threat in their eyes. So I think that's what's going to end up happening. AJ Styles, though, I feel was perfect on the SmackDown. We're not going to talk about SmackDown, but the fact that AJ Styles versus The Miz, I really enjoyed that match. And I thought it was funny how WWE kept posting it all on the social media that because of his forearm, The Miz's teeth broke. So that was pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the pictures. I didn't even watch. To be honest, I didn't even watch SmackDown this week. But I did see the posts of The Miz's teeth, and they are really playing it up. It's kind of like when John Cena got his nose broke by Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins felt really bad when it happened. But WWE's like, no, we got to play on this, and then it's like, yeah, John, I broke your nose. Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's not going to go anywhere, but I think the fact that with Miz's limited time run, that they're just doing any way to keep him off TV now, because maybe he's doing another movie or doing his own social thing that he does for WWE for publicity. So I think this is a good way to keep him off TV for a while.
Yeah. What was next? Next up was the first of the 2 Divas matches that they now do, because the whole Divas Revolution, because they have to get, instead of having 1 Divas match that's a waste, they're going to have 2 Divas matches that's a waste. First one was Brie Bella versus Charlotte. Brie Bella won via roll-up. God, I hate roll-ups. So, that's just basically leading into a match between Brie Bella and Charlotte at Fastlane for the title, because, everybody feels bad for Nikki having to have surgery. And if you want to talk about this match or them, you can go ahead.
You seem so enthused by this. I think the promo that Brie Bella did after, stating how she's pissed off about everything that's happening with Nikki, that she wants to take over kind of now. They're just trying to push back the Sasha Banks and Charlotte WrestleMania match, which I'm more starting to think it's going to be a triple threat at WrestleMania, not just a singles match. I think they're just trying to figure out any way to kind of fill that, keep it up to the biggest event. And then, so that's just going to be, hey, we know Charlotte's going to win, and she's going to lose it at WrestleMania.
Yeah. So after that match, we had the Big Show versus Eric Rowan. Big Show won. I don't even remember how Big Show won. I think it won by chokeslam. But then he got attacked by the rest of the Wyatt family, which Bray Wyatt wasn't there because, and actually neither was Bo Dallas, because their grandfather has been sick. So they both went to visit their grandfather. So Bray Wyatt wasn't there, but Luke Harper and Braun Strowman were both there. They attacked the Big Show. I'm surprised the Big Show, as old as he is, did a spot where they basically body slammed him onto the steel steps. But
I think, like, Big Show now, like, I don't know why they have him on TV. I think it's to, like, be like, hey, he's the biggest person in the world, and they're gonna have, like, him job to people. But I think with the fact that Big Show is not who he used to be, he is now more of the person who's squashing. The fact that he took a win and then got destroyed kind of makes me wonder, like, hey, what are they gonna do with him maybe for WrestleMania? Because, hey, like, they need to build that card. It's coming up in a few weeks. That's the card that they're going to focus on. Maybe they're going to have him on the show. That's why
Maybe,
they had him have a clean win, kind of, and then get destroyed.
maybe, but who knows? And speaking of what are they doing with, the next match was Titus O'Neil versus Tyler Breeze. With Titus O'Neil coming out with the win. What are they doing with Tyler Breeze? I mean, now me personally, I was never a big fan of Tyler Breeze, even in NXT. That Prince Pretty thing drove me nuts because I'm like, I don't want to sit here looking at you, looking at yourself.
Oh,
But
you like the selfie cam. Come on. You
no,
like the selfie stick. Don't lie. It's okay. I've
but
seen you have one.
no, but I just don't understand. It was like you bring him up to they had that moment on Breaking Ground where it was like Tyler Breeze is finally coming up to the main roster. Yay. He loses his very first match, which you knew he was going to lose because his very first match they book him in is one in the title for the tag team. I mean, not tag team, the WWE title tournament. You knew he wasn't going to beat Dean Ambrose, so I don't understand why they did that. He wins a couple matches, then they break him and Summer Rae up. I don't really like Summer Rae anyway, but now it's just like he's just losing, and it makes me seriously think that people in NXT are probably going to be like, why should I go up to the main roster just so that I could eventually start jobbing to people? And that leads you to getting fired. Like, I understand that that NXT is like it's supposed to be the minor leagues, and you should always strive to reach that higher goal. But when that higher level isn't doing anything for you and is actually more detrimental to your career than where you are now, I wouldn't even really be worried about it. Now it really shows like when you hear that Finn Balor says that he's more interested in staying in NXT and seeing what they can do with that. Like, I don't blame him because why would, especially when you're a smaller, unless you're big like Apollo Crews or something like that, I don't see why you'd be in such a rush to move up because smaller people just get crushed and just get crapped on. So
I think it all depends on who's going to be coming up because you have Samoa Joe possibly coming up very soon. I think that they can make him work a lot. Look at Kevin Owens. Look at Neville. Those guys are now past that point where it's like, okay, I've came from NXT. I'm actually doing great. So Tyler Breeze didn't have a great match. He didn't have a great persona, and that's what made him fail. You got to have a relatable persona to make things work. So wait, the selfie stick, hey, I'm going to take pictures of myself. That was done before, and no one cares to see that. Just like Adam Rose. No one cared about the rosebuds. Screw the rosebuds. Okay, that died, and look where he's at now. He's a social outcast.
he's a social jobber is what you mean.
Oh, good point.
But after that, here's your match of the night. Was Dolph Ziggler versus Kevin Owens. Now, the match itself was actually a really good match. Like they had some really good spots back and forth. Dolph Ziggler, he can put on a match. Kevin Owens, I'm really high on Kevin Owens, so he could put on a great show. The problem I have with it is I don't see the point of it because maybe it's just because I like Kevin Owens so much that I feel like they should have him more strive. Like, even if you don't have him going for the Intercontinental Championship, you should have him going for a championship and just like sticking him with Dolph Ziggler. Like, and not only you sticking him with Dolph Ziggler, you have him trading wins with Dolph Ziggler because Kevin Owens won last week against Dolph Ziggler, and then he loses this week. So I don't get what the ultimate end of this is. If like I know you can you can have a feud without it being for a belt, but I think that with Kevin Owens being as high as he is right now, I think you have to do more with him than just sticking him in a meaningless feud. Now, I could be wrong, and they could just be saving it up for something to happen at WrestleMania, but I just don't understand what's the point of doing this now.
Yeah, WrestleMania, I'm starting to think if they don't have Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles like they were teasing at the Royal Rumble, I think it's going to be like a 6-man ladder match for one of the titles, US or Intercontinental. I hope Intercontinental because that's a better title. Um, and those guys are all going to get mixed into it. So, like, hey, I don't care. Dolph Ziggler wants to beat Kevin Owens. Cool. Maybe next week Kevin Owens beats Dolph Ziggler because Dolph Ziggler needs a win because, hey, he's been losing a lot lately. Then just make sure that there's a major outcome to the end of this. Be like, hey, you build them up this much, let's get them in at least a match at WrestleMania, not on a dark match before the actual main card. So I'm okay with that.
I guess. Next up is our second Divas Revolution match. Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch. It's actually the match that everybody cared more about because it has Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch in it. That match ends in a DQ because since Sasha Banks split from the rest of Team Bad, now Team Sad, she got jumped and by the other two, and then Becky Lynch came to her rescue, and now they kind of have Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch paired together. I know that I'm not going to say I know, but I have that feeling, just like you do, that they're going to have at WrestleMania a triple threat match between Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte for the belt. I just don't know if I'd like the team up because, like, Sasha Banks was just saying, the whole reason why she left Team Bad was like she was like, I don't need anybody. I could do this on my own, and so on and so forth. And then you kind of teamed her up with Becky Lynch anyway, so it kind of doesn't really make sense.
They're just trying to get them to work together, trying to have a big name. Becky Lynch wasn't that big when she was part of PCB. So they're just trying to get them to work together. So at one point, Sasha or Becky's going to screw them. They're going to get heel. Boom. There's your match at WrestleMania.
Well, they need to hurry up with that build because it's not really interesting to me. And it's like you had all this pop and all this backing for Sasha Banks, and it kind of just feel like it just fell by the wayside now. Like, I know that it was like when she was with Team Bad, they didn't know Team Bad didn't know what the hell they wanted to do. They wanted to be like the mean divas, but then at the same time they wanted to be the female New Day with their whole unity thing, but it didn't work. So it was just kind of like, well, I don't know what to do now, so let's just wing it or whatever, and it didn't work. But I just feel like before Sasha Banks had like she had a lot of following, and it's kind of died. So that's why I make fun of this whole Divas Revolution thing, because it's like the Divas Revolution, they're treating it just the same. The only difference that they did between now and before is that they have 2 Raw matches, and they may, instead of them going for 30 seconds, they may let them go for 2-3 minutes. But other than that, it's the same thing. If you book it like it's women, it's still going to be women. It's still going to be Divas wrestling. It's not going to be women wrestling like NXT, where when you had that, where the whole Divas Revolution started at, was because they had the women. They just had them in storylines and regular storylines, and they just had them wrestling, and they put on the show, and everybody was happy with it. Instead of making it about like women stuff, like women can't trust each other type stuff.
Don't touch that one, man. Don't touch that one.
Fine. I'll move on from that because I don't want to offend anybody. But the last match of the night, main event, was Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns versus the New Day. The match ended with Ambrose with Dirty Deeds for the win. Ambrose and Reigns then get attacked by New Day. They fight them off, and then Brock Lesnar comes out and F5's Dean Ambrose to end the show. So there you go. He got his trip to Suplex City like he wanted.
It was a beautiful F5. All F5s are beautiful, but there was only one that was perfect. That was to the Undertaker WrestleMania 30, but we won't talk about that.
Don't get me started on that. I was already looking at that earlier, and it still pisses me off that they did it.
It's beautiful. But I mean, hey, that's what you watch the WWE Network for. The WWE Network gives you that chance to watch all those all over again. And I've watched that probably like 6 times.
Yeah, I wish I could erase it from WWE Network. But overall, as far as Raw goes, once again, standard fare. Nothing like spectacular. I mean, like I said, the Dolph Ziggler versus Kevin Owens match that I did enjoy. But other than that, it's just something that you pretty much watch. I don't remember a spectacular Raw event. I mean, a spectacular Raw, and I don't know how long. That's one of the reasons why I don't go to Raw, because if I don't like it when I'm watching it on TV, what's the point of me paying for it?
I don't know. I kind of like Raw's coming back into Chicago in March. I'm kind of thinking about going. I think it'd be kind of interesting to kind of see like, hey, it's Raw. You're getting closer to WrestleMania now because it's after Fastlane. Yeah, they do more stories wise, but it'd be kind of interesting to see like, hey, who would appear? Because now it's that WrestleMania time. Like this would be the only time I say you have to go to a Raw. So I think, hey, we might have to look into tickets and do that.
Maybe, but that would strictly be for the podcast, for the people, because it definitely wouldn't be for me.
Mm-hmm. Liar.